I never thought I'd be standing here today, celebrating 5 years with a man I once married out of desperation. They say the deepest love stories are written by fate in the most unexpected ways, and ours began with a contract. Priya's voice trembled as she looked into Aryan's eyes, the ballroom falling silent as guests wiped away tears. This wasn't just another anniversary celebration, it was the culmination of a journey that began with an impossible choice. If you're touched by what you're about to witness, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us of love's transformative power. Now, let's go back to where it all began. 27-year-old Priya Sharma clutched the hospital bill in her trembling hands, the numbers blurring through her tears. 3 months ago, she had been focused on building her modest design business, caring for her widowed father, and occasionally dreaming of the kind of love she'd witnessed between her parents years ago. But dreams weren't paying the mounting medical bills, and her father was running out of time. The surgery needs to happen within 2 weeks, Ms. Sharma, Dr. Mehra explained gently. Without it, his chances are. He didn't need to finish the sentence. Priya knew. The specialized cardiac procedure her father needed wasn't covered by their insurance, and the cost was astronomical, 7 million rupees that might as well have been 70 million for all she could afford. That night, Priya sat beside her father's hospital bed, watching his labored breathing. Ravi Sharma had raised her single-handedly after her mother's death 15 years ago, working double shifts as a school teacher, never missing a single parent-teacher conference or dance recital. He'd postponed his retirement to help fund her education, ignoring the chest pains that had been warning signs for months. Now, his sacrifice was killing him, and Priya felt powerless. Priya beta, don't worry so much, her father whispered, his once strong voice now frail. I've had a good life. Stop talking like that, Papa, Priya said, fighting back tears. We're going to find a way. I promise. But how? She'd already approached every bank, sold her mother's jewelry, even begged her distant relatives. Nothing came close to the sum needed. Sleepless and desperate, Priya remembered something her father had mentioned years ago, a wealthy former student of his who had offered help should they ever need it. Aryan Malhotra, now a successful business magnate with connections throughout Mumbai. It was a long shot, but Priya was out of options. The Malhotra Industries headquarters towered over Mumbai's skyline, a gleaming testament to success and power. Priya felt small and insignificant as she waited in the opulent reception area, clutching her father's old letter of recommendation for his former student. When she was finally ushered into Vikram's office on the top floor, she was surprised to find not the aging businessman she'd expected, but his son, Aryan Malhotra. At 34, Aryan had recently taken over as CEO following his father's semi-retirement. Tall and imposing, with sharp features softened only by unexpected kindness in his eyes, he listened intently as Priya explained her situation. My father remembers yours fondly, Aryan said after a moment of silence. He credits Mr. Sharma with setting him on the path to success. Hope flickered in Priya's chest. Then you'll help? I can work off the loan, I'm a designer, and I can. 7 million is substantial, Aryan interrupted, his expression unreadable. Our charitable foundation typically doesn't handle individual cases. Priya's hope crumbled. She should have known better. The wealthy lived in a different world. She gathered her belongings, dignity intact despite the desperate tears threatening to spill. However, Aryan continued, stopping her departure, I may have a proposition that could solve both our problems. The proposition came like a thunderbolt. Aryan needed a wife, not for love, but for business. His family's conservative investors and business partners were pressuring him to settle down, viewing his bachelor status as a sign of instability. Meanwhile, his aging grandparents' only wish was to see him married before they passed. A marriage of convenience, he explained, his voice businesslike. 1 year minimum, potentially 2. You'd have access to the family's medical resources for your father, a generous monthly allowance, and after our divorce, a settlement that would ensure you never have financial worries again. Priya stared at him in disbelief. You want me to marry you? A complete stranger? It's a business arrangement, Miss Sharma. Nothing more. We both get what we need. Her mind raced. Marriage had always been sacred to her, a union based on love, like her parents had shared. But her father was dying. What was her heart worth compared to his life? Your father's surgery can be scheduled immediately, Aryan added quietly. Our family has connections with the best cardiac specialists in Asia. 2 days later, Priya sat by her father's hospital bed, explaining what she had done. The prenuptial agreement was signed, the engagement announced in Mumbai's highest social circles, and her father's surgery scheduled for the following week. No, beta, absolutely not. Ravi Sharma tried to sit up, wincing in pain. I won't allow you to sacrifice your future this way. It's already done, Papa, Priya said softly. And it's not forever. Just long enough to get you well again. This isn't what I wanted for you, he whispered, tears in his eyes. Marriage should be about love, not desperation. Some sacrifices are worth making, Priya answered, kissing his forehead. And this one is non-negotiable. The wedding was a lavish affair, orchestrated entirely by Aryan's family's team of event planners. Priya felt like an actress in an elaborate play, dressed in a designer lehenga that cost more than she would have earned in 2 years. She barely knew the man whose name she now shared, beyond their brief meetings to discuss the terms of their arrangement and practice their love story for public consumption. Their first night as husband and wife, Aryan showed her to a luxurious suite in his penthouse apartment. Your rooms, he explained. Mine are across the hall. We need only maintain appearances in public. Thank you, Priya said quietly. For everything you're doing for my father. Aryan's expression softened momentarily. Get some rest, Priya. Tomorrow the real performance begins. Life as Mrs. Malhotra was a strange blend of privilege and loneliness. Priya's days were filled with charity events, business dinners, and carefully orchestrated public appearances where she played the role of devoted wife. Aryan was unfailingly polite, even kind in his way, but maintained the emotional distance their arrangement dictated. Their conversations were limited to logistics and schedules, with brief rehearsals before each public event to ensure their stories aligned. Her father's surgery was successful, but recovery would be lengthy. The only genuine joy in Priya's new life came during her daily hospital visits, where she watched color slowly return to her father's cheeks. Even there, she maintained the charade, speaking of Aryan with fabricated affection while her father watched her with worried eyes. He's a good man, beta, her father said one afternoon, 3 weeks after the surgery. But does he make you happy? Priya forced a smile. Don't worry about me, Papa. Focus on getting stronger. The first crack in their carefully constructed facade came 2 months into their marriage. At a charity gala, an intoxicated business associate made inappropriate advances toward Priya. Before she could react, Aryan was there, his arm protectively around her waist, his voice cold with barely controlled anger as he confronted the man. Later that night, in the privacy of their car, Priya thanked him. You don't need to thank me, Aryan said, his voice unusually gentle. No one speaks to my wife that way, arrangement or not. His words, and the fierce protectiveness behind them, stirred something unexpected in Priya's heart. For the first time, she looked at Aryan, really looked at him, and wondered about the man beneath the polished CEO exterior. The following day, Priya returned from the hospital to find Aryan working in the apartment's living room instead of his office. Beside him was a bag from her favorite local bakery. Your father mentioned these were your favorite, he said, almost embarrassed, pushing the box of gulab jamun toward her. I thought you might need something sweet after the hospital. It was such a small gesture, yet it breached the careful distance between them. That night, they ate dinner together for the first time, not to rehearse for an event, but simply as 2 people sharing a meal. Aryan asked about her design work, which had been put on hold since their marriage. Priya found herself telling him about her dreams of starting her own small label, featuring traditional techniques with contemporary styles. "Why did you stop?" he asked. Priya shrugged. "This arrangement, it's a full-time job in itself." "It shouldn't be," Aryan said thoughtfully. "Perhaps we need to rethink how we're handling this." The next week, a room in the apartment had been converted into a design studio, filled with everything Priya could need. "Consider it an investment," Aryan said when she protested. "A talented designer shouldn't be wasting her skills playing society wife all day." As weeks turned to months, the rigid boundaries of their arrangement began to blur. Priya found herself looking forward to their evening conversations, which had become a ritual. Aryan, she discovered, was not the cold businessman she'd initially thought, but a complex man carrying the weight of family expectations and personal loss. His mother had died when he was 12, and his relationship with his demanding father had never recovered. He wanted a replica of himself, Aryan confessed one night. Someone who would put business above everything else. "And is that what you want?" Priya asked. Aryan's gaze met hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "I used to think so." Priya's father was discharged from the hospital after 3 months, moving into a comfortable guest house on the Malhotra estate to complete his recovery. Watching Aryan interact with her father, discussing books, playing chess, genuinely engaging with the older man, Priya felt something shift in her heart. "He's nothing like I expected," her father told her during one of their walks through the estate gardens. "There's goodness in him, Priya." "It's still just an arrangement, Papa," she reminded him, though the words felt increasingly hollow. "Is it?" her father asked gently. "Because the way he looks at you when you're not watching, that's not arrangement. That's something else entirely." The realization that she was falling in love with her husband hit Priya suddenly and with frightening clarity. It happened during a business trip to Udaipur, where they were attending a destination wedding of one of Aryan's important clients. After the event, Aryan suggested they take a boat ride on Lake Pichola, away from the crowds and business talk. Under the moonlight, surrounded by the shimmering waters and the majestic palaces reflected in the lake, they talked about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears, not as business partners maintaining a facade, but as two people discovering each other. When Aryan reached for her hand, the touch felt different, charged with something neither had anticipated. "This isn't what we agreed to," Priya whispered, her heart racing. "No," Aryan admitted. "It's becoming something else. At least for me." The confession hung between them, fragile and terrifying. Priya pulled her hand away, fear overwhelming the longing in her heart. Their arrangement had clear boundaries, a defined end date. Feelings would only complicate everything, leading to inevitable hurt when their contract reached its conclusion. "We should head back," she said, retreating behind the safety of their arrangement. The journey back to Mumbai was filled with tension, both of them retreating into formality. But something had irrevocably changed. Priya found herself noticing everything about Aryan, the way his expression softened when he spoke to her father, his habit of running his hand through his hair when stressed, how he remembered every small detail she ever mentioned. The crisis came 6 months into their marriage. Aryan's grandfather, who had been overjoyed at their wedding, suffered a severe stroke. In the hospital waiting room, Priya found Aryan alone, shoulders hunched, vulnerability etched across his usually composed features. Without thinking, she sat beside him and took his hand. "He's strong. Like his grandson." Aryan looked at her, raw emotion in his eyes. "This whole arrangement, my grandfather was the main reason. He raised me after my mother died. His only wish was to see me settled, happy. And he has," Priya said softly. "No," Aryan's voice cracked. "He's seen a performance. A business deal dressed up as a marriage." The pain in his voice broke something in Priya. "Not entirely," she whispered. "Not anymore." Their first kiss wasn't planned or performed for an audience. It happened naturally, in that sterile hospital waiting room, born of shared vulnerability and feelings that could no longer be denied. When they broke apart, Priya saw her own confusion and longing reflected in Aryan's eyes. "This complicates everything," she said. "Or perhaps it simplifies it," he replied. That night, they talked until dawn, not about their arrangement, but about what was growing between them. About the fear of trusting these unexpected feelings, about the risks of opening their hearts when their marriage had an expiration date. "What if we remove the expiration date?" Aryan suggested as sunrise painted the sky outside their window. "What if we gave ourselves permission to see where this could go? No contracts, no obligations, just two people choosing each day to be together." The proposition terrified and exhilarated Priya in equal measure. "And if it doesn't work? Then we'll know we tried for something real," Aryan said, taking her hand. "Not just convenient." The transition from arrangement to authentic relationship wasn't seamless. Both carried fears and defense mechanisms built over years. Priya worried that Aryan's feelings were temporary, born of proximity rather than genuine connection. Aryan struggled to express emotions that had been suppressed throughout his business-focused life. Their first real fight came when Priya discovered Aryan had been secretly paying for additional treatments for her father without telling her. "I'm not a charity case," she yelled, hurt and pride fueling her anger. "You don't get to make decisions about my father without consulting me." "I was trying to help," Aryan shouted back. "That's what people who care about each other do." "People who care about each other are partners," Priya countered. "They don't make unilateral decisions out of some misguided sense of control." The argument revealed the core fears beneath their growing relationship. Priya's fear of being seen as a transaction. Aryan struggled to understand the difference between solving a problem and supporting a partner. They spent the night in separate rooms, both confronting uncomfortable truths about themselves. The next morning, Aryan found Priya in her studio, surrounded by fabric swatches for her first collection. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. "My father taught me to fix problems with money or power. He never taught me how to love someone as an equal." Priya looked up, seeing the genuine vulnerability in his eyes. "And I've spent so long being independent, carrying everything alone, that I don't know how to let someone help without feeling diminished." "Perhaps," Aryan suggested, sitting beside her, "we could learn together." Learning to love authentically was a daily choice, filled with stumbles and victories. Priya began to flourish, her design business gaining recognition in its own right. Aryan found himself reshaping his priorities, discovering that success measured only in profit margins left him empty. Together, they established a foundation funding education for underprivileged children, combining his business acumen with her compassionate vision. Priya's father watched their evolution with quiet joy. 9 months into their marriage, as they celebrated his full recovery with a small family dinner, he raised his glass. "To beginnings that come disguised as endings," he toasted, his eyes twinkling with knowing affection. "And to my daughter, who married a stranger but found her partner." On their first anniversary, Aryan took Priya back to the lake in Udaipur where they had first acknowledged their changing feelings. Under the same moon, on the same shimmering water, he presented her not with an extravagant gift, but with the torn pages of their prenuptial agreement. "I don't want an arrangement anymore," he said softly. "I want a marriage, real, messy, challenging, and beautiful. I want forever, Priya, if you'll have me." Tears filled Priya's eyes as she realized how far they had traveled from that desperate day in his office. "I married you to save my father," she whispered. "But somewhere along the way, you saved me too, from a life half-lived, from fear disguised as independence." Their second wedding was intimate, attended only by those they truly loved. This time, when Priya spoke her vows, they weren't memorized lines in a business arrangement, but promises flowing from her heart. This time, when they kissed, it wasn't for show, but a seal on a journey neither had anticipated. 5 years later, standing in that anniversary ballroom surrounded by friends who had witnessed their transformation, Priya finished her speech with words that brought tears to every eye. Life rarely gives us what we think we want, but sometimes, if we're brave enough to open our hearts, it gives us exactly what we need. I married a stranger to save my father, but in doing so, I found the love of my life. As they moved to the dance floor for their anniversary waltz, Aryan held her close. "Any regrets?" he whispered. Priya smiled up at the man who had transformed from business partner to the love of her life. "Only that I wasted so much time fighting what was happening between us." "We needed that time," Aryan replied. Some love stories can't be rushed. Their journey from arrangement to love had taught them both that the greatest risks often lead to the most beautiful rewards. That sometimes, the most unpromising beginnings can lead to the most fulfilling destinations. And that love, when it's real, doesn't diminish either person, but makes them both more completely themselves than they could have been alone. If this story touched your heart, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales that remind us of love's transformative power. Because sometimes, the most beautiful love stories begin with the bravest choices, and the willingness to let unexpected love change everything.